Okay, so we're going to go over different errors that people experience in Java. So the first error we're going to go over are syntax errors. These are mainly due to your code's construction. So an example of a syntax error can be the following. So let's say you try and put in a statement called hello world, and let's say you forget the quotation marks here. Let's say you forgot to include those. That's an example of a syntax error. Another example can be when you forget the semicolons at the end. So these are two examples of syntax errors that common syntax errors that people experience. Another one is runtime error. So for example, let's say we have the following. Let's say we try and do the following. 1 divided by 0. We know in math that's undefined. So if we were to try and execute this, we would get a runtime error because we're trying to have the program execute something that's impossible to do. Other runtime errors are when you try and put a double value into an integer value, or maybe integer value into a string value. So for example, if we have, let's say, a string, we can't put a number here because that's not what a string is. A string is usually inside a quotation. So if you try and put like a 5 here, you would get a runtime error because you're trying to have your code execute something that can't happen. And then one more error that people experience are logic errors. So this is when the code doesn't work how you expected it to work. So let's say, for example, we have the following. We want to get this value, 3 over 4. So most of us may think that the code will execute and give us the following, 0.75. But if you were to actually put this into a compiler, you would notice you don't get 0.75, you actually get 0. Now, how does that make sense? 3 over 4 is not 0. Well, this is what's going on. So these two are integer values. Integer values are whole numbers. So you're having an integer value being divided by an integer value, and you're going to get back an integer value. So what happens is the compiler sees 0.75, and since that's a double value, not an integer value, it's going to round it down. And so it's going to round it down from 0.75 to 0. So for things like this, you have to have at least one double value. So if you do 3.0, that's a double value, and you will get 0.75 when you execute it. Now, after all of that, we're gonna find some errors inside this code. So first thing we see, we're missing, hold on, let me change the color. All right. So we're missing static. There should be a static here. So that's one error that we figured out. Let's see what else. Aha, look at our statement. There should be quotation marks here. All right. So this is how this is the code we fixed up.